George Washington knew that, all the founders knew that, and they were willing to take upon themselves and invoke this covenant so that we could be protected and have the blessings of God. So what is it that makes our Sacred Histories American Covenant Tour different? I would have to say this is a unique, one-of-a-kind tour that no other company is offering. And that is because we overlap 4 levels of history that take place here on this American continent. So we're talking about American history, early colonial history. We're talking about church history, early LDS church history. We're talking about Book of Mormon history that took place on this American continent. And we also include Templar, Knights Templar history that was taking place way early in the 14th century here on this American continent. That is unique to this particular tour and not offered anywhere else. The American Covenant, what is that? People talk about it, but what's interesting is our founding fathers, George Washington in particular, what we'll talk about, is when he went to take his oath of office, he stood at Federal Hall, had his Masonic Bible, and opened it up to Genesis chapter 49, which talks about the vine overrunning the wall. And they understood the idea that there was a covenant that was attached to this land. And the first thing he did, and this is part of what you'll experience on this tour with us, is that after he took his oath of office, he immediately walked and took his cabinet and went to St. Paul's Church and invoked that covenant that we would honor and respect God's law. And as we do so, we will be blessed. And when we ignore God and turn away from his laws, then we are going to suffer cursings. And George Washington knew that, all the founders knew that, and they were willing to take upon themselves and invoke this covenant so that we could be protected and have the blessings of God. This is a hard question, pinpointing which of these histories I'm most excited about visiting, but I would probably say the idea of introducing the Knights Templar to our clients, because that is something that no one's really delved into. In fact, I think most people wouldn't even think that the Knights Templar were here in this American continent, but we have definite proof that the Knights Templar were here, and I'm excited to show our clients that portion of history that they've not heard before. What I find also interesting about this particular tour is we'll have an opportunity to see exactly where the birthplace of the Revolutionary War took place, because we're going to be visiting Massachusetts, and we'll be able to understand clearly the importance of the Ride of Paul Revere, of the Battle of Lexington and Concord, and how those particular events, which really kicked off the war for our independence. But you're going to be visiting those sites and witnessing for yourself exactly what those early colonists were seeing and feeling when those particular horrific events took place, because we lost American colonies at the Battle of Lexington. And to me, that's really important, because it's the founding of our freedom right there, and what people were willing to sacrifice without a known outcome. They just knew they wanted to be free. Another part of this tour, Sacred Histories American Covenant Tour, is the fact that I'm partners with Rod Meldrum. And Rod is an amazing guide. He's so passionate about his work with the evidence of Book of Mormon in the American heartland. And we're going to visit some amazing sites that are just nowhere else on earth. Can you go to an effigy mound that's right there in Ohio? The Serpent Effigy Mound is one of the largest mound animal effigy sites in the world. We visit that on this tour with Rod Meldrum, and he'll be sharing the importance of other mound sites that we go to in Newark, as well as other fortresses that are attached to the Book of Mormon. And so another aspect that's going to be amazing is watching how these sacred sites that we visit all along the eastern seaboard and into Ohio, they overlap with different levels of history, whether it's Book of Mormon, whether it's church history, whether it is American history or Templar history. Another aspect of our Sacred Histories American Covenant tour is, of course, the church history aspect. But we're going to go to some more out-of-the-way sites that a lot of times a lot of our LDS people don't ever get to. And my most favorite site, is the birthplace of Joseph Smith. And if you're not familiar with a nexus point, you're going to learn about what a nexus point is. But Joseph Smith was born on a nexus point there in Sharon, Vermont. And we're going to be able to see that particular site. It also ties into American history. Joseph Smith's ancestors were big proponents of liberty and fighting to have their own freedom here in America. We'll be talking about that, but we also visit really obscure sites that most LDS tours do not go to as we travel through New York down to Harmony, Pennsylvania. But we'll be finding out about the Colesville Saints, what made them such a stalwart group of people that never left the faith, and that's because of the experiences they had up in Colesville, New York. So you'll want to come with us because you'll be seeing things you've never heard before on other tours.